Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with the man that does it all, our pro tennis player, architect, author, dear friend, John Riggio, joining us again live today on the show. How are you? How was your week?
Great, Jill. How are you?
Fantastic. Weather's better here, right? So, I'm in New York, Long Island. He's out in New Jersey. So, it's feeling good. A little warm up in the Northeast. That makes me smile, makes you smile.
Yeah. Yeah, the weather is starting to get a little better outside, and we're back playing tennis on the weekend too, so that is really good.
Amazing.
So my tennis teaching is back on for the weekend, and everything is going excellent this year. The group I have of tennis players is still growing slowly. It's really going good. So
Wow.
I usually talk about my architect profession, but I also like to talk about stories from when I was younger and playing tennis. So last year I wrote a book, and the book is My Own Court, the life story of tennis legend John Riggio. This book also has stories about my architect profession. It has stories about growing up and all kinds of different things in there. Then also last year, I was also in the book Top 100 Innovators and Entrepreneurs on page 42. And so that has been really good. So in the book, I talk about all kinds of different things. I was also very studious when I was young. I used to also do all kinds of things like go to the library.
Straight A
Uh,
students. I
yeah,
remember seeing your
one year
grades. Yeah, yeah.
I was number one in the book reading club one year.
Yeah.
I was very young.
All these accolades. And he's not bragging. I mean, he's got to tell you because he's awesome. He's a great soul, a great person overall, and does many things. And always, every time I talk to you, there's a new story that you surprise me with. I'm looking forward to that today. No pressure.
Yes. So from last time, uh, I have all kinds of interesting stories. I think one thing just to talk about first is a tennis tip. And because now that it's getting warmer, everyone's back out playing. One interesting thing about tennis that is really good to know is you have to try to not act self-conscious when you're on the tennis court. Because when you're out there on the tennis court, if you're playing singles, especially too, you might get a little nervous about how you're standing there. You want to act casual. But in tennis, the best thing to do is not really think about yourself, about how you're standing there and everything. You want to try to stay as confident and relaxed as possible. Like, for instance, in tennis, you want to hold the racket with two hands, one hand on the handle, one in the middle, and you want to bend your knees a little. Um, you don't want to feel self-conscious to just like sit there casual or something like that. If you were to look at other players on the court and you see them just standing there casual, they just have their racket loose and want to just like do like a slice of the ball. That really isn't as good. Some of that also you don't want to get that into where you're self-conscious and you're um thinking about holding the racket correctly isn't looking good. Usually just the opposite. You want to look like you really know how to play. And I think one interesting trick to do that also is to get like those wrist bands and a headband and you put it on there and that sort of helps out a little. Everyone starts to go through getting different tennis clothes, but usually if you do something like put a wristbands on, a headband on a couple times, can help you just start to loosen up a little, feel less self-conscious. And feeling less self-conscious, you want to then concentrate on your game. You want to really concentrate on the ball, how you're swinging it, how you're holding the racket, and not think about anyone around you looking at the game. I think when I was also playing this type of concentration was very important, and it started to get more and more important to concentrate on the game and not get distracted with fans watching, people cheering or booing or anything. And you really had to concentrate on your game. You had to keep your cool too. You don't want to react to anything. It could cause you a problem. You want to, act very calm and be very happy about the audience around you, the fans and everything like that. That was one thing that started to develop worse and worse. So, but it starts just like on your regular court, a recreational tennis, you go out to play, you want to just not feel self-conscious and start to just concentrate on the game on the court. And then that from there, you could then keep developing that skill, and that improves your game overall. Because, like, say if your coach tells you you're supposed to point your finger up in the air to look at the ball, to hit over it, but you feel self-conscious, you don't want to point your finger up in the air. If you don't point your finger up in the air, there's no way to judge the ball, and you're going to miss it, and then you're going to feel bad because you lost the point. So those kind of things you want to concentrate on and keep on your game. And that is really my tennis tip today. It's a good one. People watching, playing tennis, you should really follow that idea, really concentrate on the game and not feel self-conscious. So I think one interesting thing I've been talking about the last few times is what's been happening in between all those different um, contracts. There was some gaps in time. And in between those gaps in time, there were all kinds of interesting experiences going on. So I think from the last time I was talking about, really just to set the picture, I'm playing tennis, a multi-million-dollar contract. My contract's getting bought over. At this time, it's going up to $100 million contract. And the day in with the contract at this point was, in particular with the Japan team, was there was just some delay in really getting onto the court with the difference with them all the way in Japan and me here. I'm living in New York, and they are calling, and we're trying to get the whole thing together. But in the meantime, all those personal stories were coming out. And I think one interesting personal story to talk about was I was talking about some of my entertainment friends, and one interesting thing about my friend who's Terry that I met in 1988 is I think this is the thing that I don't think most people have this kind of situation. One interesting situation was I did start to get to know her, but I didn't really get to know her that in depth. And
Mm-hmm.
that's because where she lived in the group home, they wouldn't let me go there anymore. And we were before cell phones. But then a few years later, what happened is I'm living in an apartment, and I'm waiting at the Mitsubishi contract to go ahead for everything to go ahead with the playing to start and everything like that. And I receive a phone call from Terry. She has my phone number. She calls me, and I think one interesting thing about Terry, who's in adult entertainment, is when we met. I think I'm in excellent shape, and I think like say like you go to the beach and you're at the beach and you're really in excellent shape. You have a great body, is very lean and everything like that. So she originally we were good friends, we're pretty loose together. She would just like pull my shirt up just to show I have a great uh a great figure, to just for fun. This is like just like young kids. It's similar to like you're at the beach. And but as we talked, she also told me this thing that even though this is her thing, she really went to New York on her own, got away from her uh, family to do this. This was her desire. They had some interesting things. Is one, her contract they wanted the strangest thing. They were putting pressure on her, saying that eventually she would have to have like these cult children to pay for it.
Yep.
And I think that was a little disturbing to her. And since I'm her friend, I didn't really want that. So I had offered, I'd say I'd pay the money. If they need like $100,000, it turns out they wanted like $100,000 so she wouldn't have to do this. And she didn't really want to. I think this is another loophole in entertainment that people they can get away
Wow.
with something like this. I don't know why. For some reason, there's all these little loopholes. For some reason, in entertainment with contracts, and particularly in the adult industry, somehow there were loopholes for uh, people to get hurt, overdosed, and they have this thing with some cult children. So what happened is she did not want this. So during this time, years later, um, she gives me a phone call, and she says that they want her to have one of these children, and she doesn't want to do it.
Oh my
And she
gosh.
knows that I was willing to put up the money.
Ah.
I was willing to put up the money for her
Ah.
not to do it. So even
Mm-hmm.
though we weren't going out anymore, and there was no necessarily any future with us getting married or anything that was uncertain, but I still wanted to help her. So what happened is she's on the phone and she puts this other guy on the phone who's like managing this whole thing. I talked to him for a few minutes, and yeah, I agreed to attribute $100,000 so she doesn't have
Wow.
those children. And the guy was pretty nice. He was calling me a champ. He knows how we met
Aw.
and everything. Because I think their work is very insulated. They aren't getting out and talking to everybody. So I did hold true on what I had promised years ago with her. I did attribute $100,000, and they accepted this type of gift, and it held off that she would have to do this thing with having like cult children to pay instead of just paying some money. And I I think everything went out good. Good. I did talk to Terri over the years, and everything else seems to have gone good with her. I don't know what happened with any type of thing with the culture, but I'm 100% certain at the time I was able to hold off this requirement. I was about maybe it's like around maybe 26, between 25 and 28 years old or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what exact age I was, but she was just a few years younger than me. And she did not want to have these children at that young age. She wanted to put it off. So I think they were going to put it off maybe between 3 to 5 years for her at minimum. Maybe they would waive the whole thing since I promised this $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I think after that, I met her a few times.
Wow.
She is she's doing okay, and I think that them stopping us from going out together all the way back in like 1988, she was still a little hurt about that. And it wasn't my fault. I mean, I didn't do anything. And I think originally with that whole thing with stopping us, I went there so many times trying to get through that they ended up chasing me all the way down the street that there was nothing else I can do at that time. So, but I think she was still a little hurt feelings about that. And but I was in fact able to stay in contact with her up to that time when I was able to attribute that money, and they accepted it. I talked to directly to the person there in her company, and
Yeah.
so that worked pretty good. And yeah, I was happy to help her out. I didn't want to change my mind, even though we weren't able to continue going out and everything. I still helped her with that story. So I think that was really interesting. I think that during that time there were all kinds of interesting things going on. I was able to talk with all kinds of people, um, trying to make some deals to get my contract going. At one point, I talked with Mr. Matsui over at the Sanyo Electronics in Japan. They gave me a name to call. And in fact, I got along very well with him. I talked to him, I talked to his secretary, and we kept a conversation going over for a number of months. And I
Mm-hmm.
even had some phone calls back to them when the whole thing cleared with finding some sponsors. And he was pretty good. He wanted to really see if I could really become rich too. And we started playing this game, and things are pretty good. I ended up getting this big stereo system like a
Wow.
short time later, and I think it worked out pretty good. I didn't end up doing this thing, and so they gave me that. I did get a big stereo system, and I still have it too. And I think this whole thing came about really from talking to um, that's executive there in
Yeah.
Japan, and he was trying to teach me all kinds of things. He says he thought the same thing, that I could become rich, and he wanted to give the whole thing a test. And I think I came through with whatever we had talked about. Everything was good. He thought that there was a little bit of like a resistance around me that that things, even though I did everything correctly with Mr. Matsui and everything, that there were people who were just going to sort of withhold playing any kind of game with me. And somebody said the same thing. And this is one interesting story. So things were not completely where I could just run ahead and get everything I want. So that was one thing that was happening there. But he was just, from his point of view, he was just looking at the situation and thought that if I followed what he says, I should be able to get ahead and I could become really rich. He's really a top executive there in the company there in Sanyo, and he's was doing great. And I was talking to him, and he knows when I was talking to him also about when it comes to tennis, the big numbers. And he is someone who knows how to invest in sports, and he was interested in my contract. And he's talking to some kid that's all the way here in the USA. I didn't get to meet him in person yet, and we we were but he was able to really entertain this idea. And then when I finally got back on track with this partnership with Mitsubishi, Adidas, Reebok, and Leona Helmsley together, those four put me back on playing finally. It took a few months and everything, but I was finally back playing. And I called them again, updated them that I was back on the courts, and that not she doesn't have to miss out on that whole story with playing with the top $1 million contract and everything. And they were onto that whole investment. So that was really good. And I think at that time also there was some other high level calls. I had talked to the secretary over there at Mitsubishi, and she, after I taught her this idea of how to add investors and everything, because they weren't really sure know how to do this, they tapped into one of their friends, which was Bernie Tapeby, and he's the owner of Adidas at that time. He's living in France. And I talked to him on a conference call. It was a straightforward, he's an ordinary guy, and everything went good. And I think talking to him probably helped, that I'm someone real and playing. It is not giving any joke or anything like that. And I think with all these different things that finally went ahead, he probably knew about it. I didn't get to talk to him again about what happened with his involvement with the tennis contract, but he probably knew that it went ahead and was 100% successful. It was not a waste of time. So that was very good. And he was friends with the Reebok. Now, the owner of the Reebok, I didn't talk to him personally. I only got to talk to their coaches. Their coaches were very involved with the contract, and they called me directly, and they were calling me right to my apartment. I think the one good thing was the landline in that apartment really was working good. A lot of phone calls were coming through. They weren't getting blocked, and I was really doing wonderful. So I think that is one interesting thing. I think one interesting thing about tennis was let me see, I have more stories, but I don't think we have time to go through all of them. But instead, I could talk about a very interesting story. When I was playing previous years back in Jericho, the coach for the tennis, he was really the captain, not the coach. He was really the captain of the tennis was the Vitas Gerulaitis. He was putting some matches together for me, and one match he put together was with this guy Donny, and he was telling me that he is really a musician that everyone knows. So you ever heard of this musical group called Don Dokken? You know the group
No,
Dokken?
no, sorry, I
There
haven't.
was this group called Dokken.
Okay.
It's like a heavy metal group, and this guy is Donny Dokken, and he I played him a game of tennis, and we had an excellent game of tennis. It was very good. He was a very good 80s player. So I was really playing very strict 80s tennis. This was the newest kind of tennis. And I think Vitas Gerulaitis was really more like a 70s player. But this guy, Donley, he was playing 80s tennis. And I was just reading his bio right now. I can upload it here. Let me just share it. Let me just make sure it's online first. Let me just make sure it's here. Is he was really much older than I had thought. He was really about the age of Vitas Gerulaitis. He was very close age, but yet he was playing very new style. I think the music that they make is more like an 80s style. So let me just get this guy on here.
Sure.
Okay, good. So let's share it. Okay, good. Okay, so what's happening here is so this is yeah, so this is the player here. I think this picture is way old, but let me see what's going back in 1980s, 93. Okay, so there he's over there somewhere. Okay, so what happened is so he is the player here, and but I think the way Vitas has described him to me that he was an excellent pro tennis player.
Oh,
And I played him a very nice match of tennis, and he played a good 80s game. I was pretty impressed with it. I think I think when I played him, I assumed that he was about the same age. So I was wondering how he was learning to play tennis and do his music at the same time. But it turns out he was really older. He played a very young game and was, uh, of course, I won the match, but it was a fun game to play. He played the same kind of style tennis, and it's pretty good hits, has very nice cross-court shots, really a nice like a rally of hitting the ball a certain number of times over the net and things like that. I
yeah.
remember that from that match. He had
Wow.
very like long hair too. I don't know if that came from music or what, and but I was playing with them, and it was a pretty impressive game. He really played excellent, and some nice serves, some top spin hits, and things like that, and it was pretty good. And that was what had come from that game, so that was pretty good. And he was really playing excellent. Um, so I think also filling in some interesting things. I was seeing a lot of stories about the networking and things like that, and just by chance, I was able to locate those invitations. Let me just I'll put these up here. I was able to locate those invitations. Let me see where they are. Let me see what this is here. Okay, this is now it's coming online. Let me just close this for two
Sure,
seconds.
sure. No problem.
Here
Got
we
three
go.
minutes. We're good.
Okay, so this here, this is the some of these things from the internet. They developed into this whole thing with them sending these to me in the mail, these advertisements. So it says here Webster Hall. That's where we used to meet, was Webster Hall. I
Oh,
think another one was really good was so this is my address back then, was this one, the bar bat. This one was really very good. So the group of people I used to meet here was different than the one at Webster Hall. It was all done by this same company. This is a brand
the
new idea back
Met
then. They were
Party.
sending me these things like this in email, and so Margot Crespin, she was doing these organizations. When I was there, she was really there in person, and she used to organize these events. This is something brand new coming out. But this one is way late in 2001.
Wow.
I had scanned some of these, kept them as a memory. And so this was a brand new idea back then, coming through the internet and everything. And it was really excellent. Um, I think just patching in while I'm here. Let me just do this. Let's do this here. What happened to the screen?
Wow.
Oh, there it is. Oh yeah, so I think one interesting thing was I was saying about those different marriages and they were putting me together. I think there was some things I left out. I think Miss Miss Stephanie. Yep, did that-
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yes. She in fact she was a very nice. I knew her when she was much younger. I think even the date that's here is not even on this list, back in 1980, 1998. And but I think the only thing about her is they were interested to maybe have me, get married to her. And so we met a number of times, and we got along pretty well. She's very nice, and I think when I knew her, she looked more like this. She was very young, and I think the only strange thing was she is the only one where there were people who were jealous of me and her, that they were trying to put us together. And it was a little strange. One of them was, I think, her producer. So the producer was standing outside on the sidewalk, down the sidewalk, and he was acting a little bit like he's a little enraged, a little angry, maybe jealous. Now, I did not put together me meeting with Stephanie at all. This was just done through entertainment, just entertainment friend. And she liked me. We were getting along very well. But this thing with the guy outside, the producer, was very upset that someone beat him up. And then he eventually he left there. I never talked to him. And then there was another guy, another one that's listed in here as her friend. I don't know if I want to say the name, but I think it was I think it was Mr. Scorsese. He was outside too, and I think he was maybe there not knowing what she was doing in the tennis center. I assumed maybe this was becoming where they're a little jealous, not knowing what's happening. And I didn't talk to him personally, but he was sort of outside. I assume they were a little upset or something like this. It was building up some pressure. Now, this is at the start of her career. She has a contract that is just over $100 million.
Oh,
My contract is over
beautiful.
$100 million. So
And
we're
we
paired together.
and
We
we
get
gotta
along
wrap
pretty
up. Go
good.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead. We
Very
gotta go.
nice.
Sorry, sorry, go ahead.
And
We gotta unfortunately wrap her up. We talk about her
I
next
think
time.
this
She's
might have
beautiful.
ended our little friendship short. I think unfortunately the jealousy outside, them not wanting us to get together was a little like an objection to our friendship. I don't know if they were part of something like that. But as far as my sponsors are concerned and the whole entertainment group, it was completely okay for us to stay friends and things like that. So that was one interesting thing about meeting Stephanie was she's the only one that really had very visible jealous people around
Mm,
vocalizing. I heard maybe little shout outs from outside, things like that. And
uh-huh.
as far as I'm concerned, I didn't care. I wasn't gonna stop meeting her. It
Uh,
didn't bother me. But I think it did start to build up some pressure. And that was one interesting fact about that. So me and Stephanie, who was Lady Gaga, we got along very good. She's very nice.
Amazing. Yeah.
And but there was all kinds of things they didn't other people did. They didn't want her getting away. So that's what happened.
Wow. John Riggio, contact you. Google him. He's on Facebook. Check out his Facebook page. JohnRiggio.com is his website. You'll find him the pro tennis player. Obviously, he's in a group, and you also can Google him and get his book. Thank you so much for today. Bye bye. Talk next week.
Well, goodbye.
Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.